writing down. Maybe just.
Okay, we'll get started. You guys are obviously here to see the multiplayer hands-on. You get a chance to go next door after my presentation. We've got probably 40 machines in there set up for multiplayer. Hopefully you guys have a chance to dig in and enjoy what you experience. Just to get you some context, we're going to start with a quick presentation on sort of things that we've talked about thus far, some improvements in the game, and some of the new things we're doing, and some of the things that you're going to experience when you play multiplayer. So we'll talk about technology. We did the Essence Engine 3 for Company Heroes 2, and that allows us to, well, it gives us a lot of new flexibility and power. It's a new renderer, so we got new lighting models, higher detailed units. We can put a lot of stuff on screen. It also gives us an opportunity to make sure our system specs are really decent, so we can run on a broader range of machines. So when we talk about the improvements in graphical fidelity, its performance as well as giving us more tools to be able to tell sort of the story, immerse the characters of the players more in the lives and roles of these soldiers in the game. True Sight is the new line of sight system. Some of you have played the game in various guises before at some of the trade shows and things like that, but you'll see it in the live multiplayer experience, and True Sight adds a lot to the tactical feel of the game. It gives you the opportunity to do more flanking and ambushes and sneak attacks, because now your opponent can only see what their units can see. And so the environment plays a big role in the tactical gameplay layer as well. Authenticity, it's a word we use a lot because it helps to tie the player to the setting and to the context of what they're experiencing. And when we talk about authenticity, it isn't about being bolt accurate on every tank lug nut. The idea is that it's about the intensity, about the tone, about the presentation, and adding to the sort of immersive feel. So we want the battles in Company of Heroes to feel tense and on occasion overwhelming, because players get engaged that way. It sort of drives the adrenaline level up. Tactical gameplay. Relic really owns that RTS tactical space. We've I think forged a really compelling hybrid of strategy game and tactical gameplay and how we build our resource systems and all those kinds of things. But the focus of the game is on maneuvering your units and using cover, finding the right counters to things, building versatile forces so you can engage a variety of enemies, and then using the environment to your advantage or to your enemy's disadvantage. We talked about cold tech and about all the systems based around cold weather and winter, and that includes things like fragile ice and cold temperatures and deep snow. But that's about delivering the tone of the Eastern Front, and so we put a lot of effort into the technology there. It adds a lot to the dynamic nature of the maps and the gameplay. When you have a river that can break and refreeze, it changes up how units path around, it changes how you might send units across, and combined with things like the line of sight system, you need to be careful about sending tanks across the ice if you haven't scouted for what the enemy has. And part of that is, again, sort of consequence and choice. Players make a choice. We want there to be a consequence to what they do, either positive or negative. Extreme cold is a feature of the cold tech system. On the Eastern Front, exposure was a very big deal, and both the Soviets and Germans fought tooth and nail over every available piece of shelter. But you can mitigate it against cold by using cover, and again, that reinforces the concept of cover, and you prevent your troops from freezing. You can keep them warm by fires. You can garrison them in buildings to help them warm up. You can use half tracks to move them around the battlefield and keep them warm. Deep snow is a tactical consideration, and it slows the units down, and so the winter map you'll play has pockets of deep snow. Those are good spots to set up defensive weapons to protect against a flank, or to pin a guy down in deep snow. It also adds this element of persistent tracks, and that really comes across in our snow tech, because it's not just a white texture. It actually has depth and a layer. And so you see in DX11, for instance, that the snow actually deforms and sinks, and so the persistent tracks look really cool, and they add a really interesting presentation layer to the battlefield. As the fights go on, you see where enemies are maneuvering. And the first time you come across a set of tank tracks and you don't have any anti-tank, it's a real pucker-defining moment. Seasonal warfare. The Eastern Front was broad, took place over a long period of time, and so we've got a variety of environmental conditions, and some of them you see here, and also locations. So there's lots of different places for the player to engage in the enemy, and they all play a little bit differently. Especially when you factor something like true sight in, the urban environments and the big sort of industrial type environments become a very different place to play. So we want to talk about the Relics Next Generation Tactical RTS. And some of the things that you're going to experience. For those of you who've played Company of Heroes, we had things like cover and environmental destruction and abandoning weapons and facing. All that stuff is still a vital part of the game. We want you to use cover. We want you to experiment with vaulting, combined arms, building up a versatile force. In this case, you've got howitzers and machine guns protecting and anti-tank guns protecting your flank. And we want that stuff to pay off for players. We want them, to be able to flank and have a payoff. It's not just a visual thing; it actually becomes part of the gameplay. So what's changed in the game? There's a few things. We have our new resource system, and what we've tried to do was put an onus on more tactical gameplay. Essentially, taking the player's mind share and shifting a little bit of that mind share out of the environment and into the tactical play. So we have the same resources in the game. We've got munitions and manpower and fuel. We're distributing them a little bit differently. So all of the standard points in the world are going to grant you both munitions and fuel. But every map has unique key resources, either fuel or munitions points. And what we can do with the system is also create multiple layouts for every map. So we can have what we call a front line, which is a map that has the resources more symmetrically placed, and that's good for competitive play. Gets the map symmetry down to a level where the balance is really easier for us to deal with. And then we also have the battlefield, which is a more asymmetrical map, and that's designed to kind of promote tactical play and also engage different areas of the map. So the maps feel differently when you play them. We're getting a lot more coverage of the map assets that we're creating. We've reduced the number of territory points on the map. A lot of our maps in the original had 22 or 25 resource points. Now we're down to sort of 12 to 14. And again, it limits the number of map territories, so you don't get this kind of exponential requirement in brain power to figure out a strategy of capping or of cutting off your opponent. So we still have all the same territory gameplay with supply points and those kinds of things, but we've put more of a focus on territory cutoff into the battlefield maps, for instance, so you have a slightly different play style on those maps. We wanted to make systems like upkeep a little clearer to the player. The way the manpower resource works in Company of Heroes, people start with a fixed rate, and as their army gets bigger, it costs more to field your army, and your collection rate goes down. As your army gets whittled away by combat or attrition, your collection rate goes back up again. And so we're trying to maintain some parity between players, allow some comebacks, and also slow down the fielding of really enormous armies. It's not about sort of blob gameplay. But that system is I think, clearer than the original and easier to understand. The upshot of all of this is that we want focus on tactical gameplay. We want players out fighting in the world, and we want them fighting in a variety of locations so they can use the tactics at their disposal. The commanders. In Company of Heroes, we had commander trees. So every army had 3 sets of commanders that you unlocked. You chose one once you started the game. What we've done in Company of Heroes 2 is change up that system just a little bit. So what we wanted to give players the ability to customize their armies a little more. And so there's actually a pre-selection component to commanders. What we do is we're going to have 7 commanders in the game, and those are made up of more than 20 abilities per army. So players have 7 to choose from. They're going to pick 3 in the front end before they go into the game. And then once they're in the game, it acts just like the original Company of Heroes, and they pick one of those 3 armies to play with. So it gives them the ability to have a bit of meta strategy prior to the game on what kind of commander they're going to select, or what kind of blend of commanders they're going to select. And then once they're in the game, they can react to what their enemy does, or they can act preemptively and pick one of the commanders. They unlock once you earn a command point. So again, player choice, and I think very importantly for us and for the long-term player base is that we get the opportunity to do more post-launch support. So the commander system is very flexible, and after we ship the game, we can start the availability of new commanders for the players to download. And so it's easy for us to go from 7 to 10 to 15 to 20 different commanders. It allows us to introduce new units and new abilities in an integrated way, which I think is cleaner than what we did in the original. And it gives players new strategies and new content to play with long term. So what's new? It's kind of going on the command track. We want players to be able to customize what we call a loadout. And a loadout is their selection of commanders. It's also vehicle skins. And it's something we're calling the Intelligence Bulletin system. So this is all about creating tactical options for the player and giving them an opportunity to customize their experience. They can customize an army to fit certain maps. They can customize an army to fit certain opponents. They can customize an army to work with their friends so that they've got sort of mutually supporting options. Intel Bulletins is something new, and this started from an image that we'd seen a long time ago, but it gives us an ability to create some context for a new system. And this particular image you see here was issued to Soviet troops once they had encountered the Tiger tank. And they gave them sort of some foreknowledge on how to engage the Tiger. So, for instance, it says to shoot at the wheels with everything, to shoot at the tracks with all calibers of anti-tank guns, to shoot at the turret with machine guns and try and jam it, vision blocks, throw Molotovs. It's basically a how to disable a Tiger tank. The British Army issued similar things, and there's this interesting propagandistic value because they, in the British Army, they were telling their soldiers essentially how crappy the Tiger was and all its flaws, and it sort of gives them maybe a morale boost when they first faced it. I don't know how effective it was. But in CoH2, the intelligence bulletins allow us another way to customize the army, another way to balance players' choices in commander trees. They either want to multiply the effect of the bonus of their commander tree or maybe mitigate against some of the weaknesses in the commander tree. And these are driven out of achievements. So as a player plays the game and knocks out certain numbers of vehicles, they're going to unlock these intel bulletins. So an example is with the Tiger tank. If I kill 20 Tiger tanks with anti-tank guns, I get to unlock an intelligence bulletin that I can add to my army that boosts my anti-tank guns, gives them some bonuses against heavy armor. And so that's an interesting system. There's well over 100 different intel bulletins. So the players are going to be able to pick from 3. And there's a lot of interesting meta strategy that can be built around that system and the commander system. Skins. There are 3 skins, 3 vehicle classes that you can pick skins for, light, medium, and heavy. We're building around historically accurate skins. It sort of fits the premise of the game. So you see some examples here on this KV1. There are winter and summer versions and camouflage, different kinds of camouflage that players can apply. Again, it's about creating sort of ownership and customization. When you see 4 different armies fighting it out and people have different skins, it really adds an amazing level of vibrancy and uniqueness to the battlefield. So it's pretty cool. And also every unit in the game has both summer and winter. So when you get a chance to play on the spring map and the winter map, every soldier has a summer and winter uniform, and you'll see them in bulky coats and gloves and things when they're fighting in the winter, and in their lighter uniforms in the summer, and the same with the tanks. Progression is a key new system for us, and it kind of ties all of this stuff together, all this stuff I've been talking about. Players are going to earn XP against their profile, and they're going to earn XP in every mode they play. So Guys who play solely campaign can earn XP and unlocks, and guys who play solely skirmish can do the same. There's 20 military ranks to unlock, which I think is very similar to the original. But we also have a battle honors system, which is sort of like a prestige and allows players to reset their progression and earn some visual rewards for their faceplate. The interesting thing about the faceplate, as you see here, is that it's very dynamic. So all of the ribbons and medals that are on the faceplate are a real reflection of what you do in the game and how you play. Campaign guys will have a different set of medals from guys who play multiplayer. And guys who play victory point games are going to earn different rewards from guys who just play an island game. So the system is intended to encourage players to play a wide variety of the game modes and earn against achievements and earn visual rewards, and it ties to Steam, and it ties to Intel bulletins, and it ties to commanders, and all this stuff is unlocked as you go through progression. So, just a brief overview of what you're going to experience. 2 armies, and I think these images really capture the tone of what we've been trying to deliver with the armies. Soviets, aggressive, mobile, brash, brave. The Germans, when we sort of use our baseline, are at the turning point. They're technologically advanced, well trained, well led, but on that sort of cusp of being worn out. But they're a tough, durable army and ready to sort of turn things around at any moment. So the Soviet troops, they can engage lots of troops. They got good mobility. Their individual units are relatively versatile, especially the conscripts. They can get both anti-infantry and anti-tank upgrades, grenades in that case. The German Austere, on the other side, they've got more opportunities for defensive play. They can put down bunkers to control parts of the map. They're a very flexible army doctrinally. All of their buildings have really flexible choices, so you can build a good, flexible, versatile army out of each structure. Strong infantry, anti-tank, which is a theme of the German army, Panzerschrecks and Panzerfausts. But the overarching goal, and one of the reasons we're going to be doing so many betas in the upcoming next several months is that we want balanced armies that are effective in all phases of the battle, early, mid, late. And we want to make sure, like from my perspective, that the armies are balanced so that we see a wide variety of the units. We don't want an army being a meta strategy of only 3 units. So I want to see, versatile armies and everything being built. And that ties to combined arms. Again, we want these armies to be effective as combined armies. So a tank by itself is tough and durable, but needs infantry for scouting and for capturing territory and that kind of thing. So a couple of the maps, one called Pripyat River. This map has some decent open areas near the bases for vehicle movement. There's a few choke points across the middle with some bridges, some water, and some culverts. There's a lot of opportunity for fast movement down the road and also line of sight. There's trees and forests and groves of trees that can block your line of sight, but weapons like anti-tank guns or assault guns that can have a good long line of sight can use those roads for ambush points. There's a couple of tactical objectives on this map as well, which are watchtowers in either corner, and they're going to give you a big line of sight bonus, and then fuel points. So teching or building up vehicles is going to require holding these fuel points. The other map is Rzhev. This is a winter map, so you'll get to experience the full brunt of the winter mechanics in multiplayer. It's going to be cold and it's going to be nasty, so you have to keep your troops warm, keep them in cover when they're idle, so they don't get cold. Put them in buildings, maneuver them with half tracks. Control the fires, building fires, destroying your enemy fires. It's often vital to a defense. Deep snow and ice both play a tactical role in the game. You can see from the minimap there are areas of ice that players are going to be tempted to cross. So it's just a case of being careful there. Deep snow will slow your troops down, so pay attention to some of that. You'll see in the UI. And then blizzards are going to sweep through on a regular basis. You'll get a timer warning you of the blizzard arrival, and the cold effects are magnified by the blizzards. So troops get colder faster. Vehicles are going to slow down a little bit. Your line of sight tightens up a bit. But what we find when we're playing at work is that some players use that opportunity to hunker down and build defenses, and some players use that opportunity to expand and be aggressive. Then we're going to sacrifice some troops, but that's kind of the cost of command in some cases. So again, these are victory point maps. Controlling the victory points is going to win you the game. You count down your opponent's victory points. So that's more or less the end of my presentation. Have fun when you're playing the game. We've got a number of hours, I think, for you guys to play and try and get as many games as you can. And if you have any questions, we're going to be available for interviews. Also, this is pre-beta code, so chances are you'll run into the occasional bug. We do, introduce some during development, but it's pretty indicative of where we're ultimately going. So hopefully you guys have fun, and we'll head you out that door.